Assalamu alaikum. This is Professor Jalal Ismaili again. How are you doing? Today, inshallah, we will study modals. I think we have already seen some modals earlier this year. Today, inshallah, we will go over some of these functions, the functions that we studied in the classroom, and we will see new ones. Okay. Beforehand, I'd like to start with a review of the modals. We will study in this lesson 12 models. Okay, actually, some of them are not real models, they are semi models, and I will get back to this sometime later, inshallah. So, how do you remember the models? First, you need to remember the pairs, four pairs: can and could, may, might, shall, should, will, would. These are eight models, four pairs: one, two, three, and four. We're going to add to them must, have to, ought to, and need to. Now, modals are also called modal verbs. They are auxiliary verbs followed by infinitive. They are different from common verbs like work, play, visit in the sense that they give additional information about the function of the main verb that follows. By the function, sometimes a modal can express, for instance, let's take can. When I say can I, this is permission. Can you, this is request. I can't do that, or I can't swim, for instance, this is ability, etc. So these are what we call functions. They have a great variety of communicative functions, and modal verbs along with semi-modals are used to express functions such as permission, request, ability, obligation, prohibition, lack of necessity, advice, possibility, and impossibility. Okay, so what do we mean by semi-modals? Now, most of these modals have more than one function. They convey more than one meaning. But certain modals or certain words, okay, they express only one. Like, for instance, ought to and need to. That's why we call them semi-modals. Now, the choice of modals depends on the degree of formality, certainty, politeness. For instance, when you say can I, it differs from may I, it differs from shall I. The interlocutor or the speaker wants to convey. Hence, the speaker is supposed to be aware of these nuances. Nuances means differences or little differences in order to establish healthy communication. Following is a list of functions with the modals used in each function, and we will start with permission. Now, when I say permission, the first modal that I would think of is can, because it is more common and neutral. It is neither neither too polite nor impolite. So I can use it in different contexts. Examples: can I sit here? You can use my car if you like. Can I make a suggestion? The next model is could. Could is more formal and polite, more polite than can. Examples: could I ask you something? Could I interrupt you? Could I borrow your pen for a moment, please? And the third model for this function is may. May is the most formal way to ask for and give permission. May I see your passport, please? Customers may request a refund within a period of 30 days. These pages may be photocopied for the classroom use. So we have here for the permission, we have can, could, and may. Prohibition. We use can't and mustn't to show that something is prohibited, something that is not allowed, something you cannot do because the law says so. Can't. Let's start with can't. We use can't to talk about something that is against the rules, particularly when we didn't make the rules. What does the sign say? Oh, we can't park here. You can't take the photos in the museum. They're really strict about it. Sorry, we can't sell knives to under 18s. Must must not or mustn't. We use must not, and this is actually the full form if you're going to use the model in written, to talk about what is not permitted. It is common on public signs and notices informing people of the rules and laws. Examples: visitors must not park in the staff park. Baggage must not be left at unattended. Unattended meaning nobody around, okay, nobody watching their baggage. Guests must not make noise after 10 p.m. We use mustn't particularly when the prohibition comes from the speaker. For instance, parent to a child, you mustn't say things like that to your sister. Teacher to student, you mustn't be late to class. I mustn't let that happen again. So for prohibition, we can use either can't or mustn't. Possibility or probability. We use may, might, and could to say that something is possible but not certain. They may come by car. Maybe they will come by car. This means that I'm not sure whether this action is going to happen. They might be at home. Maybe they are at home, but I'm not sure. If we don't hurry, we could be late. There is a good chance we will be late. So as you can see, there is like a difference at the level of possibility or certainty. The highest level of or the highest degree of certainty is could, followed by may, and finally might. If you're not sure at all about something, you're supposed to use might. We use can to make general statements about what is possible. It can be very cold here in winter. It is sometimes very cold here in winter. You can easily get lost in this town. People often, okay, this is the interpretation. People often get lost in this town. We use could to make general statements about the past. It could be very cold there in winter. It was sometimes very cold there in winter. You could easily get lost in that town. People often got lost in that town. Will and shall are used to refer to probable future actions. The classes will be resumed, will continue, will start again when the pandemic ends. I won't be late. I won't be late for our appointment. We shall travel early in the morning. So as you can see, these models relate to the present, relate to the past, and relate to the future. Okay, so if you are speaking about the future, okay, obviously it goes without saying that you're going to use will or shall. Okay, if you're talking about the present, okay, you can use can, for instance, and even could. And if you're talking about the past, okay, you have no other option but to use could. Okay. Nota bene, shall is conventionally used with the subject pronoun and I and we and expresses a higher degree of certainty. For instance, I shall get you a present. This is more than just possibility. This is like a promise. Means that I am sure you will get what I promise you for your birthday, for instance. Certainty. We use must to show we are very sure something is true and we have reasons for our belief. It's getting dark. It must be quite late. You haven't eaten all day. You must be very hungry. So I have a reason to think, okay, that something is what it is. For instance, okay, I look at my friend and I see him pale, so I think, okay, that he didn't get enough sleep. So I would say, okay, you must be sick, okay, or you must be in need of sleep, etc. We use should to suggest something is true And we have reasons for our suggestion. Ask Miranda. She should know. It's nearly 6 o'clock. They should arrive soon. So for certainty, I would use must. And alternatively, I may use should. Okay, but I advise you, if you're certain about what you're talking about, please use must. Impossibility. Impossibility is the opposite of certainty. I am certain that something is not. For instance, that can't be true. It means I am sure that something is not true. This is like negative certainty. Alternatively, we call it impossibility. You cannot be serious. Okay, it's the same thing. Ability. Now, mind you, please, okay, that the opposite of impossibility is certainty. So the opposite of can't is actually must. For instance, you must be from Townnet. I am sure you are from Townnet. If I am sure you are not, I would say you can't be from Townnet. I cannot say you mustn't be from Townnet. I think it is clear. Ability. We use can and can't to talk about someone's skill or general abilities. Abilities, capabilities, what somebody is capable, okay, can do, able to do. She can speak, we would start with can. She can speak several languages. He can swim like a fish. They can't dance very well. And all of these examples express ability. It could be either physical or mental. We use can and can't to talk about the ability to do something at a specific time in the present or in the future. I can see you. Help, I can't breathe. We use could and couldn't to talk about the past. She could speak several languages. For instance, somebody is talking about his grandma who passed away. He would say she could speak several languages because she is no longer there. I couldn't see you. Obligation. We use have and must. Okay? Have to and must to express obligation. There is a slight difference between the way we use them. Have to. Let's start with have to. Have to shows that the obligation comes from the outside of speaker. For instance, we have to wear a uniform when we're working in reception. Students to teacher, when do we have to hand in our homework? Al, this is a name, has to work tomorrow, so he can't come. Meaning the obligation comes from an outsider body, an outsider person or agency, etc., or a regulation. We sometimes call this external obligation. Must, on the other hand, expresses a strong obligation or necessity. It often shows us that the obligation comes from the speaker or the authority that wrote the sentence. I must phone my dad. It's his birthday today. The teacher to his students. You must hand in your homework, okay? Meaning that it is the teacher who assigned this homework and he is the authority who made it obligatory. Sign on a plane. Seat belts must be worn by all passengers, meaning that the company made this compulsory or obligatory. Let's move on to the lack of obligation. Lack of obligation, meaning that you can do something, but it is not necessary. We use either don't have to, don't need to, or needn't. We use don't have to show that don't need to or needn't to show that there is no obligation. Examples, you don't have to wear a tie in our office, but some people like to dress more formally, meaning this can be done, but it's not obligatory. For suggestion or advice, we use should for affirmative, shouldn't negative. Like for instance, you should send an email. You shouldn't be late. Okay. We can also use ought to and need to. Example, we ought to meet at the weekend. You need to finish the project.